Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about social media websites and why I have gotten rid of my accounts for most of them. I am done with basically every social media app or website besides a few, which are YouTube, of course, Instagram, and Reddit. Those are the only social media apps and or websites that I still have an account for, basically. Now, why did I stick with these three in particular? Well, for one, I stuck with YouTube because it's the one I use most often. I watch a lot of videos, and especially recently, now that I've gotten rid of a lot of other social media apps and stuff like that, I've kind of just went back into the YouTube rabbit hole and really like a lot of video essays from like ContraPoints, H-Bomber guys, stuff like that. And I really like watching their content, especially recently. And that's the social media app I go on most often, even though it's not really super like social media like, if that makes sense. Some of it is like short form content, and there, of course, is YouTube Shorts, but I avoid that most of the time. I kind of avoid that like the plague, and I mainly just stick to long form content, actually. So it's not like that big of a social media website, but it's still one that I frequent most often. The second one I go on most often is probably Reddit, because the only reason why I'm sticking with Reddit is because as long as you just know which communities you want to be a part of and you're relatively tight knit and you don't go too far off the path and go to like r/funny, for example, where it's like the most unfunny shit ever and like people that are still 13. I feel like generally it can be okay. Of course, there are going to be some annoying assholes on Reddit, but this is the case with basically every social media website. And if they are on Reddit, they most likely are going to be on like other social media websites as well. It's like it's not exclusive to Reddit. Maybe there are some people that are like exclusively mean and like annoying on Reddit for whatever reason, but again, I feel like on every social media website, there's going to be annoying people no matter where you turn, even in your own community, unfortunately. But that's just the way of life. So yeah, again, you can't really avoid it. You kind of just have to live with it and just learn to appreciate a lot of the great aspects of some of the communities you're a part of. For example, I really like going on Reddit to see fan art and stuff like that. I feel like there's a lot of really, really good artists, or if they aren't good artists, they at least repost some good art and sometimes give credit to the artist, which is pretty cool. So, again, really like Reddit in some aspects, really don't like it in some other aspects, but generally, I feel like it's a fine place to go on most of the time. And then the one that I use least often, and the one that I consider actually deleting pretty often, is Instagram. Not only because it's owned by Facebook and they get a lot of your data, they are notorious for just data harvesting and trying to get as much advertising data as possible, which is really, really shitty. But also because I don't really have that big of a use for it. I will say very, very recently, though, I have kind of delved into the Instagram Reels a bit. I do have some self control, I would like to think. I kind of stop myself and put like a block in my brain and say, hey, you need to immediately quit this. Don't get too far into it and just scroll forever. Like, this is why you've gotten rid of a lot of social media websites, which is to stop this reliance on short form content. So, again, I try not to go too far to the shorts, or not the shorts, but the reels rabbit hole. But, sometimes recently I have been going on there for like 10 minutes a piece, like twice each day, I would say. But again, I'm trying to limit that even more as the day goes on. But hey, there are just some genuinely funny people on Instagram. And, the algorithm is accurate, even though I hate algorithms and I really hate how predatory they are, really. They do understand you, and that's why they're so popular, unfortunately. And again, I really, really hate Facebook. It's the big reason why I want to get rid of it is just that it's owned by Facebook and they get a lot of your data, and I really don't like that for like privacy reasons and stuff like that. But the only reason why I'm keeping it is not even because of the reels. I can take that or leave it, honestly. It's mainly just due to the fact that I am reliant on Instagram sometimes to contact friends. Like sometimes when I meet new people and make new friends, they will just ask for your Instagram account. And that's just kind of how it is. It's kind of like from what I've heard from people back then when Facebook was popular. A lot of people just contacted their friends through Facebook. It's kind of a similar thing now where a lot of friends ask for people's Instagram accounts. So I feel like I would be left out if I got rid of Instagram. So again, it's kind of this necessary evil I have to keep. again, it's not like too bad. I don't go on it like too often, as I said, but still, I don't like how much data they have of me. I try not to give too much data to them, of course, but still, they have a good amount of data most likely, which I don't like. But again, it's this necessary evil I have to live with right now. And again, at least I've gotten rid of a lot of other social media websites I used to have, or not social media websites, social media accounts, basically, I used to have. The biggest one that I'm glad I got rid of, like, not even like that recently, like a few years back, not a few years back, but I would say about a year ago, I got rid of was Facebook. I never really used Facebook. I just made it because my family was on there, and that was like the only reason I made a Facebook account. I got rid of it. I got rid of it way too late, I will say, but again, I didn't really use it all that much anyway, so they probably didn't harvest that much data, I would like to think, on me. So yeah, I'm glad I got rid of that. I would suggest everybody get rid of Facebook accounts, honestly, because nobody really uses it besides boomers at this point. Like, let's be honest. I know it's kind of like the stereotype for boomers to just like only use Facebook, but it's because it's kind of true. Like, I don't know anybody who still uses Facebook. And the only thing I do know about Facebook now is that it has a lot of AI generated bullshit on it. And it has a lot of conspiracy theories and just really wild shit on there that is really bad. So again, I would really recommend, if you still have a Facebook account, which I don't know why you would still have a Facebook account now, but if you do still have one, get rid of it just immediately, please. Like, it is not good at all to keep having one at this point. But besides that, I would suggest like the next social media account you should maybe get rid of, if you can take it or leave it, if you don't need it in your life. I would honestly recommend. I know this is a big blow to a lot of people, but I would definitely recommend Snapchat, especially because as you get older, it's really not that useful anymore. I think it's useful, like decently useful in like high school, maybe early college. But besides that, there's not really that much of a reason to use it. It's like just way worse. It's way worse than a lot of other social media websites when it comes to like messaging, because there's a time limit. I know that's the gimmick and all that, but still, it's not that great unless you want to be like really really private about something, and send something that somebody else shouldn't see in the first place, which is already pretty bad. But again, even if you want to do that, I would still say just get their phone number at that point instead of just relying on Snapchat, because again, it's annoying to have that time limit. But also just generally, just the overall vibe of Snapchat, and like the overall like modern look to a lot of shit, trying to appeal to the youth and all that. I mean, at least they know their audience, but still, it just has this weird sort of feeling, and that's the biggest reason why I got rid of it, because I just didn't really use it all that much. I used it like on and off. I had some like phases where I used it like kind of often, but then I just stopped using it for a while, and then I kept using it for a while in like some aspects, and then sometimes I didn't. Again, I barely used it sometimes, and then sometimes I used it pretty often. So it was just on and off, but I got rid of it eventually. So I would recommend, again, everybody else really do the same. You could probably just get somebody's phone number if you absolutely need to keep somebody's contact on Snapchat. If you have like friends on there, I understand that. But again, I would recommend just getting their account on like any other social media website, because that way you can at least see their messages for a while and not have to rely on a timer, as I said. But then the next social media website I would recommend getting rid of is honestly TikTok. I know this is another huge blow to a lot of people, especially ones that are like relying on short form content. But that's exactly the reason why I would recommend getting rid of it, because a lot of people have their attention spans kind of ruined because of the short form content social media websites. And I know, yes, YouTube and Instagram have their own version of TikToks, have their own version of TikToks, no, have their own version of TikTok with like the short form kind of content. And I know I did say I was like on and off using Reels from time to time, but again, I feel like you can avoid that. But on TikTok, it is the main focal point. On Instagram, you can at least see other shit. You can avoid the Reels tab like it's the plague if you really need to. But on TikTok, it is the main thing, and that's the problem. Again, you're shortening your attention span and just wanting quicker and quicker dopamine hits. I know this isn't like a super new thing as well. I know Vine existed in the past, but I feel like it's just gotten a lot worse with TikTok, which is why I'd recommend getting rid of it. The problem is with TikTok, honestly, um, now that I've gotten rid of it, isn't even the fact that, I was super reliant on the short form content because I never really used it all that much, even when I had an account. The main problem is just honestly, when promoting music, it might be just the easiest way to get your name across on TikTok because a lot of people get hits on TikTok and then they get like popular from it. And, as much as I don't like a lot of, TikTok kind of industry plans, even though they aren't like they just got popular off of like one song off of TikTok, which is fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. I would still like my music to be heard. I'll make a video on this later on, but I do feel like some of the tracks that I made recently that I'm more proud of just haven't gotten that much attention. I feel like if I maybe shared them on TikTok, I would have get maybe a bit more attention at the very least. So I don't know. Maybe I'll make a TikTok account in the future solely for promoting my music or putting some future music videos on there. I don't know, but again, maybe that will be something I do in the future because just right now promoting my music only on YouTube just really isn't cutting it. I was thinking of maybe going back into streaming, but I very recently watched a video from Venus Theory talking about streaming, and now I've just decided not to go back to streaming and posting my music on streaming services because you don't get money from it anyway, and I know money isn't like the main thing I want. The main thing I want, honestly, is just to hone in and have more fun making music. That is the first and foremost, most important thing to me right now. But I also want to get my music heard. And I know with streaming services, you can get your music heard. It's a lot easier to get your music heard on there. But again, there is also the money aspect, which is also a part of it. And I feel like it isn't worth it, especially if you're a very, very small musician who isn't getting paid for shit anyway, to pay monthly or yearly for your music to just keep going on the or not keep going, but keep up on the being up on the platform and just barely getting any money from it. So again, I might download TikTok in the future solely to promote my music, but I don't really plan to go any further with TikTok than that. And also, just generally, again, like with every social media website, they collect a lot of your data, and that's obviously not amazing for privacy because the US is shit when it comes to privacy rules and privacy laws. So that's fun. So, yeah, that is basically going to be it. Again, I would recommend if you don't need a lot of social media websites that you are still signed into, you have accounts to, I'd recommend just getting rid of them, especially if you like barely like ever use them and you don't feel a need. Again, you don't feel like a reliance on them to like function from day to day. Then again, I would definitely recommend just getting rid of your account because there's no real need to keep it at that point unless you like really need to contact like friends or stuff. But again, in that case, I'd recommend just getting their phone number or going to another social media website you already use more often than that one social media website. So yeah, besides that, that is basically going to be it, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.